Salutations all, and this is Intro to Communications, and this is the video lesson that incorporates enhancing group and team performance. Okay, you probably just watched the understanding group and team performance, so this will be the follow-up to that. So, what's so great about groups? What is every organization, from Congress to local parent-teacher association, use groups, teams, and committees to get things done? Here's a simple fact, and the book says it. Groups work. Even though some of us strive better independently than we do in groups, groups work. So, it gives us a few examples on why it works, and that's greater creativity, enhanced comprehension, increased satisfaction, and more information. That's pretty straightforward. And although these advantages are fabulous, we can't go without talking about some of the disadvantages too. So some of the barriers we come across is dominance by one person, which can happen in groups or teams. Pressure to conform. Some people, it happens. Take more risk. What I mean by that, groups can make riskier decisions and take more extreme than an individual. An unequal workload. And I'm sure if you've ever worked in a group at school, whether there be primary, elementary, high school, whatever the case, if you worked in a group, or if you worked in a team or a group with your workplace, I can almost guarantee you've been in a group that there's been an unequal workload at some point. And then more time. And what does that mean by that? It takes more time to work in groups and teams than it does individually. So you have your pros and cons. Just like everything else in the world we live in, there are pros and cons. So now the book goes into, and like always, this is just extra that goes with the PowerPoint, the word lesson from the textbook that we are using for this course. The next it discusses is what effective group and team members do. So it talks about the 6 functions that are effective for group team members. There's identifying a clear, elevating goal. Basically, what are we trying to do? So within this phase or function, this is we're trying to define the goal of the group or the team. This is what I want to do. This is what we should do. Blah, 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 blah. Research tells us it's not only good to set a goal, but to also develop a contingency plan in case that goal is not reached. So a backup plan, if you would. Now, we're identifying a goal, and the next function would be developing results-driven structure. And this is a structure that causes a group to focus its efforts on the actions it needs to take to achieve its goals. Again, if you see me look off the camera, I'm looking at my notes, which just so happened below me today instead of not to the side of me. We're focusing on verbs, action words. Within this function, it's what do we have to do to achieve this goal? You know, if it's present a project or create a new law or whatever the case. So far it's identifying goals and then working on the action, how to get said goal. The next is gather and share appropriate information. So, does something need to be changed? Instead of just relying on, yeah, it should, groups, high-functioning groups, teams, gather information to analyze the situation. So you gather accurate information, you share information, and you draw accurate conclusions based off the shared information. And all this is in gathered and shared appropriate information. So we are setting a goal, we're trying to figure out the best way to get to the goal, and then this way now we're gathering and sharing information about said goal, the pros and cons, if you would. Then it's develop options. So it's creating just that. It's pretty straightforward. You're developing options at this phase. So break it down once again. You're creating the idea. You are figuring out how to get your specific goal, and then you're gathering and sharing the information on how to achieve the goal. And then once you're there, you're developing options about the goal. How can we go about and do this? A, B, and C, or if A doesn't work, B could work. Then we move into evaluating ideas. this is where you're going to throw back. Well, if we do this, what if this happens? Okay. This is where you're not only weighing in the pros, folks. You got to weigh in the cons. You got to think of, you know, the what if with the consequences. That comes with evaluating ideas. And then it talks about developing sensitivity toward others. If you think of the pentad from the first few chapters where it's being aware of our communication with others, verbal, nonverbal communication, listening and responding, all that, actively listening, this falls in with it because it's being able to be sensitive to your group and the goals and the needs. You know, it's how are our comments being perceived by others? Confirm the value of others' contributions. Non-verbally showing interest. If you're sitting there yawning and falling asleep, you're shouting out your disdain and exhaustion or boredness. And just really intently listening to what others say within the group itself. Then it also talks, it said 6, but there's 7. Develop a positive personal style. It's just, the book says it's effective group members have optimistic attitudes about prospects for overall group success and use effective strategies to change ineffective member behavior. This is just where we're going, hey, this is going to work. All right. So, and it gave a great little recap. Let's see, I'm trying to, okay. The next part in the lesson is structure, group, and team problem solving, because, you know, when you work in groups and teams, there is problems. Structure comes in so handy when it comes to group and teams. So a structure is a way a group or team discussions are organized, focusing on group's agenda and the tasks that need to be achieved. We talked about that in the last lesson, and it's very important. It can be very helpful in a group or team when you have structure, okay? We're going to meet every Tuesday for 45 minutes. We're going to discuss where we left off and how we can move forward toward our goal. The goal could be, you know, creating a project, trying to sell something, study group. If it's teams, it's like, you know, practices are part of the structure. You practice every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 7, and you practice. It could be basics, or it could be, okay, well, the last game I saw that we were doing really great on our defense. Let's work on some of our offense, or let's work on passing or teamwork, or let's work on these particular shots. All that comes through. And with structure, there's also interaction, and this is a give and take discussion within group and responsiveness of group members to comments of others. So within structure, you have interaction, which is just the communication between folks in the group. Pretty straightforward. So, it talks about John Dewey, who in 1910 wrote a book called How We Think. In essence, his book describes the scientific method that scientists still use to solve problems, defining and analyzing problems, identifying solutions, picking a solution, and putting that solution into practice. The process itself is called reflective thinking. So, when all this is presented to you in these lessons, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. It is molded to groups. So, if you think about it, step 1 is identifying and defining a problem. So what specific problem concerns us? What do we want more or less of? Or what terms, concepts, or ideas do we need to define to understand the problem? So from that, it talks about, you know, developing a question, clarifying the problem. All that falls under defining, identifying, and defining. So within the goal, it's identifying, so within your group or team, it's identifying why you're there. And you're just identifying why you're coming together. And then there's step 2, which is the analyzation of the problem. But this is where they cut to the chase. This is where you're analyzing what you need to do to get to the goals that you are. Or 4th, They have all these internal questions that are asked that they discuss. And then there's established criteria. And these are standards for the acceptable solution. What can we, we're getting together. This is why we're getting together. How can we obtain our goal, and acceptable ways to obtain the goal. And I think I overshot. There we go. Generating solutions. And within generating solutions comes brainstorming. And brainstorming is beautiful. It's independent and interdependently working together. So you brainstorm your ideas, you come up with ideas, and then you go for the back and forth within the group itself. So you piggyback off each other, then you evaluate different ideas, and you bring them to the board and take them off the board and add and just bounce off one another. It's really great, like all the way around. And then the final step is selecting the solution. So that comes forward. Within the solution, it talks about, developing a consensus, yes, yay, or nay, and then just trying to avoid groupthink. And groupthink is kind of where there's a false sense of agreement. It could be someone's too shy to speak up, or, you're just in the moment type situation. So that comes into play with enhancing group. And then finally, we're going to take some action. We've put it all into play. We've said it all out loud. Let's put it into play. Pretty straightforward. So again, for reflective thinking steps and techniques within groups and teams, there's identifying and defining the problem, analyzing the problem, generate creative solutions, select the best solution, and then take action. They talk about group and team leadership, and there's just some different approaches. There's like the trait approach, which suggests there are certain attributes or traits that make good leaders. Researchers have identified this as intelligence, confidence, social skills, general administrative, physical energy, and enthusiasm. Then there's the functional approach, and this identifies the keys and task roles that need to be performed as a group. So this is someone that can break down task functions or process functions, task functions. These are the behaviors that help the group or the team get work done. A process function, these are your people skills. So we talked about that the last time, when it comes to roles and stuff, social and whatnot. There's different styles approach to these, to functions and roles. And there's authoritarian, democratic, and the laissez-faire. Authoritarian, they're very controlling. Then there's the democratic, and this is where we need to vote, we need to come together as one. And laissez-faire are those that they initiate discussions about policy and procedure, whereas in the leader does minimal direction. So it's more of a we'll figure it out, more chilled. And it talks about situational and transformational leadership. I'm not really going to go into those as well. And then it discusses structure when it comes to groups and teams. Now, structure can be quite lovely. It talks about agendas, and agendas is just kind of where you create a schedule. Now, are you someone that thrives on knowing what you need to do every moment of the day, or writes what they need to do or where they need to go? I'm someone, I have about 2 or 3 planners. I have about 4 different calendars and whiteboards around me, and I do a monthly, and I write what is known, like kids' days off from school, after school activities, all that goes on that I know beforehand. And as each week approaches, then I have a weekly one, and I write a detail pretty much for myself that, this is Monday, and it's really detailed, the stuff that I write on that, like things to open, like I'll put open, make sure open, that blackboard's open. This is dance day for my daughters. They have to be here by 5:30. And then I will even write while I'm cooking sometimes so that the kids can see. And then it's where we are and what we're doing. And I have probably in total 8 separate things in my world that's including my phone, that tells me where I need to be, what I need to do, and what I need to get done. Because if I don't have that, and I still forget. So I'm someone that needs that. I don't want to say I thrive on it, but it definitely helps my mindset. I need to know. within the agenda and, you know, structured agendas, structured sets and goals, is that you determine the meeting goals. You know, are we gathering to discuss what our goal is? Are we getting together to discuss ways to approach our goal, and then the final steps? Then it talks, you know, all that falls under, you know, when it comes to managing meeting structure and the agendas, it's just creating that structure. Is it more detailed? You know, we meet on this day from this time to this time. We will discuss where we left off. Then we will move into this, and then we'll cover this. We'll brainstorm for 10 minutes. We'll take a break, whatever the case may be here. And some people, okay, well, let's get together Wednesday about, I don't know, 3-ish. We'll meet in the library, and we'll just kind of discuss where we are. You know, there's no real long set time. Laissez-faire, if you would. All that falls under. It goes into more details about meeting times, which I'm not going to discuss because it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, some people thrive on very, very structured worlds. You know, they need every minute planned for. And there is nothing wrong. And then there's some people that just fly very chill in this world. They know where they kind of need to be, when they need to be there, but the specifics and length, play it by ear. And then you have some in the middle. I think I'm in the middle kind of soul, because there's times in my life I'm very like, it is what it is, and other times like, we gotta be here, here, and here. I don't have time to do this, this, and this, so in order to get this, this, and this accomplished, I gotta be here, here, and here. When my kids are in the thick of extracurricular activities, when there's dance and tutoring and acro and basketball and plus homework, and I don't want to say I'm a stickler, but I am an overachiever on my kids' homework, just because the last 3 years have been interesting in our education journey. My kids are in elementary school, like 2nd and 3rd graders. So, you know, it has been an interesting adventure in that world for us. So for that, I'm an over the top when it comes to ensuring homework and education. Just not to be ahead, just to be where we need to be. Anyway, little random tidbit about me. So anyway, that is a quick recap of enhancing working in groups and teams. So, folks, if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. I hope you have a great week. Bye.